Within the universe of Kengen Ashura, there exists a fictional region in Japan called the Inside. Known to the public as the illegally occupied zone, the Inside is a lawless territory where anarchy is ironically the rule. The region is essentially a wasteland where vices of all kinds are common. Residents of the Inside struggle to eke out an existence, and those who choose to leave are either of two people: those who want to change something, or those who want to do something. One day, a man arrived with the ambition to do something. His name was Gao Mukaku, and his goal was to reunify the Inside. His method? Martial might. Gao was a one-man army who defeated all of his opponents with overwhelming power. Regardless, the onslaught was too much for a single man to handle, and over the course of 30 years, Gao was nowhere near his goal. Sensing his declining health, Gao decided to pass on his ambition to the next generation. Selecting orphans from the Inside with aptitude for martial arts, Gao took them underneath his wing and taught them the Niko style. Since children within the Inside did not possess a name, these students were all named Tokita Niko. Once their training was complete, they were sent all across the Inside to impress upon its residents the legend of a single entity. The legend of Tokita Niko was so successful that the most powerful syndicates within the Inside came to regard the fictional figure as a threat. Nevertheless, as a man who learned from first-hand experience, Gao Mukaku devised a new secret technique to aid the Nikos in overcoming such a unified force. However, within the land that served as their training ground, a terrible event transpired, and most of Gao's students were murdered. Although there were a few strugglers who managed to survive, Gao Mukaku was never seen again. As readers of Kengen Ashura, we are given a look at two of Gao's students. One of them was a man trying to do something, a complete master of the Niko style who simply wanted to pass the torch to his student. On the other hand, the other Tokita Niko was a man trying to change something, a revolutionary who saw weakness in his master's magnum opus and will go to any lengths to achieve greater power. You have read the title of this video. The infamous Tokita Niko has finally revealed himself, the same man who drove Kiryu Setsuna to unite with his beloved, the one who awakened Oma's advance, the same man who created the formless style, and the man to awaken the Tiger's vessel within Fei Wangfang. We will be covering everything that is known about him, as well as my theory regarding his character. Tokita Niko is for all intents and purposes a deviant. This facet can not only be attributed to his dialogue, but can be traced down to his appearance. In accordance with Gao's instructions, all of his students wore the same clothing to imprint the likeness of a single entity. This appearance included a distinctive white cloak with a hood, and other clothes that might not have been as standardized. This appearance obviously borrows inspiration from the classical monk archetype, specifically the kind that practices supernatural martial arts. This image portrays the Tokita Niko as a virtuous individual that wields violence with restraint within a land devoid of any morals. However, in contrast with the infamous Tokita Niko, there exists a clear distinction between the two. For instance, Tokita Niko doesn't try to conceal his true identity behind fabric. Instead, he exposes his face for everyone to see. Therefore, Niko isn't contributing to the legend, and instead of collectivizing like the others, he seeks to be a more distinct individual. Furthermore, his appearance tells a completely different story. From his rigid hairline, his sharp hair, and vertical pupils, Tokita Niko's facial features establish that he is little more than a predator. This generalization is further compounded by his clothing. A gi is a symbol of a martial arts practitioner. As a martial arts manga, many characters possess a gi. However, only 3 characters possess a black gi. These characters are Meguro Masaki, Kuroki Gensei, and Tokita Niko. For Meguro, the necessity for a black gi is to accentuate his malicious nature. But with the case of Kuroki, the black gi serves not as a sign of corruption, but as a sign of an extremely skilled martial artist. In the case of Tokita Niko, his gi represents a bit of both worlds. It attributes a degree of malice alongside a depth of skill, further accentuating his predatory nature. So, as far as appearances go, Tokita Niko is nothing like his contemporaries. Compared to his monkish counterparts, Tokita Niko on a surface level seems to be far more aggressive and devious. An appearance truly befitting of Kengen's final boss. But appearances aside, let's move on to his character. At the crux of Tokita Niko's character lies one single truth. The Niko style needs to change. This philosophy was implied with his brief encounter with Tokita Oma, where he stated, "Forget about his city technique," in reference to Oma's master, who taught him the Niko style, indicating a low opinion of Gao Mukaku's magnum opus. For even more concrete evidence, you can also cite Niko's discussion with Edward Wu, where he said, in no uncertain terms, "The Niko style's reached a dead end. I can't expect any further evolution from it, not as it is now," as justification for incorporating outside techniques, indicating his belief loud and clear. But that doesn't make any sense. Considering Tokita Niko's background as an orphan who was taught martial arts by Gao Mukaku, Niko should have nothing but respect for the man who taught him how to defend himself. Mukaku should have been like a father to him. So, it makes me think, unless Tokita Niko was a psychopath, this sort of development isn't possible unless something else happened, an inciting incident that transformed him into the man that he is today. For this next part, this assumption of Tokita Niko's past will inform my theory surrounding his character. First things first, nothing out of the ordinary happened in Gakigahara Forest. We already know the process for learning Demon's Bane, and it's unfortunate what happened to Gao's students. Nevertheless, some of his students did manage to survive, one of them being Oma's master. Although it hasn't been confirmed if Tokita Niko knows Demon's Bane, it thankfully has no bearing on this theory whatsoever. Anyways, the inciting incident that caused Niko to lose faith in the Niko style can only be one thing. He lost the fight. But he didn't simply get knocked out. No. Niko was humiliated. In this battle, he pulled out all the stops, every single technique within the Niko style, but Niko didn't stand a chance. He was beaten true and true by his assailant, and instead of finishing him off, his opponent left him to die. Following this incident, Tokita Niko lost faith in his master's techniques and became a vengeful man. A man desperately in need of power. However, who could possibly go so far as to humiliate a master of the Niko style? And the answer to that question can be revealed with an examination of Niko's first few experiments. With the creation of both the possessing spirit and fallen demon, Niko tried to go beyond the bounds of human limitations. These two experiments suggest that Niko had a fixation with the Curry clan's removal, with possessing spirit bearing a large resemblance to their technique. This suggests that Niko had a fascination that goes beyond just trying to defeat them, but to match them. So, the man who most likely humiliated Tokita Niko must have been a member of the Curry clan. But with the number of viable fighters narrowed to such a small group, you would still be hard-pressed to find anybody that strong. I doubt even Curry Rain could humiliate a master of Niko style that badly. And even if that was the case, Rain wasn't even born. So, let's continue with Tokita Niko's history to find out just who could do such a thing. After both the possessing spirit and the fallen demon failed to create results, Niko devised a more concrete solution. A new form of martial arts specifically designed to best his opponent. A style that incorporates the techniques of many different forms in order to provide practitioners endless flexibility along with unpredictable movements. The creation of the formula style speaks to the power and skill of this unknown combatant. But nevertheless, Niko had to find a large number of test subjects to measure the effectiveness of this new martial art. In order to gather a consistent number of promising students for his Gu rituals, Tokita Niko struck a deal with the Worm organization, promising capable combatants in exchange for their wealth of resources. Underneath the Worm, Niko undertook further experimentation with his first batch of students, teaching them martial arts with the formulas as a base while incorporating techniques from the Niko style. As experimentation advanced, Niko only taught the formulas alongside a few outside techniques like Guhun, which Niko learned through contact with Edward Wu. This is the part in Niko's story where he joins up with Edward Wu. Following Edward's story, the Occident clan leader basically wants to dispose of the Curry clan and has been implied to have performed targeted attacks against their ilk. As stated by Curry Erio, Edward is thought to have been responsible for the death of a certain Curry who was destined for the role of patriarch. In an assault against a worm extermination force made up of combatants from the Curry, Wu, and Occident clans, it is implied that the Occident clan, who was in cahoots with the worm, betrayed the extermination force, giving them the opportunity to murder Curry Rikuto, a man who was going to become the next patriarch of the Curry clan. Although very little is known about Rikuto, it was stated by Curry Erio that Rikuto would not simply fall to the likes of the worm, implying that his power was enough to thwart off an entire organization that had the backing of Tokita Niko. So, Rikuto's death at the hands of a joint operation between the worm and the Occident clan is telling of the threat that he posed to the secret faction as a whole. Therefore, the most likely candidates who undertook this betrayal were Edward Wu and Tokita Niko, the two most influential individuals within their respective factions, barring the leader of the worm. Edward was there for the simple reason that he despised the Curry clan, whereas Tokita Niko took part in the operation because he held a long-standing grudge against the man who humiliated him. Well, if you were able to digest all of that, we should proceed by understanding that a lot of this is speculative and hinges on Tokita Niko's perceived character. Furthermore, if his experiments are to be believed as steps towards improving his chances of victory against Curry Rikuto, then the formless style might have countered Rikuto in some way or enabled Niko to match him in some facet. If we were to analyze this connection, Rikuto would most likely have been a well-rounded fighter, judging off the many types of combat present in the formless style. But most importantly, Rikuto might have also dabbled with foresight, since the unpredictable movements of the formless would largely disrupt that. As far as potential character relationships within this theory, Edward Wu and Tokita Niko would serve as a darker parallel to Curry Rain and Tokita Oma. With that being said, thank you for listening to my theory. Tokita Niko is a very mysterious figure. His appearance is unlike his contemporaries in every way imaginable, and his main philosophy conflicts with his origin as an orphan taken underneath the wing of his master. But in retrospect, my theory sounds very unappealing. It doesn't take into account the existence of a certain tiger's vessel, and doesn't seek to answer the big mysteries set up by the author. This theory simply gives an answer to why Tokita Niko turned out the way that he did, considering the student-teacher dichotomy between the Nikos and Gaomukaku. So, I don't want to be seen as a crackpot theorist, but I would like to know what you guys think of it. If you guys like Kengen content as well as long drawn out video essays like these, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button. Until next time, this was the cyborg whale named after Italian seas and a dessert item. Goodbye.